Let us pray. Gracious Lord, as we look to where you may be leading us as a community of faith and preparing ourselves for returning to in-person worship, may we be blessed through this meeting, and may all of the questions of our hearts be answered. Amen. Okay. So you, Connie, you have to mute yourself. Are you muted? All right, is that better? Okay. I'm going to move back further in the sanctuary so I get away from other people's computers. Worship Visioning has been working at this plan now for, well, since consolidation. And this is step one, which is, I'm going back further, which is audio visual, and Sean will take us where it is, and then I was part of that group as well, and I don't see the other members of the group on this call, so we can answer any questions. So I'm going to mute, and Sean, it's yours.
All right, I think I'm unmuted. Can everyone hear me? Okay. All right. Well, as Pastor Heidi said, this process actually started before the effects of the pandemic really set in. So it was in reaction to trying to create improvements to mostly the sanctuary, as we were coming together with Prince of Peace, trying to make this the sanctuary an improved space that could have a lot more flexibility, could kind of bring it up to modern technology, just make it a nicer, warmer space, fix some of the problems we've had. There was actually, we were actually non-code compliant when it came to hearing impaired assistance. So that was a big part of it. The other big emphasis was on the lighting, was trying to light, get a little brighter in here, as we had gotten a lot of feedback that it seemed like a very dim sanctuary. So those are kind of the two things we started out chasing. And then COVID hit, and it got very imperative to be able to do streaming and broadcasting. Cameras, audio, video got to be a bigger and bigger part of the answer. So that slowly grew what we ended up doing. So there's kind of three categories, and I'm just going to go, you should be able to see the slide presentation that was mailed out on Tuesday, I think, in a link in an email that Caleb and I put together. Like I said, we kind of broke it up into three different areas. Audio visual, which was really then subdivided into three different things. So we were going to put two cameras in. Right now, when you see a service, it's Jim or Caleb swiveling a single camera around on a tripod. We'd actually put in two cameras that can swivel 360 degrees, 180 degrees, and then zoom 30 by zooms in. So that's going to give us the ability to broadcast and stream. It'll give us the ability for weddings, for funerals, for other events in here. One of the things we had talked about being able to do was actually potentially open the church for the community, for concerts or for meetings or whatever else. So again, having that ability to have cameras and broadcast, stream that live or recorded got to be a big part of it. So this proposal includes two cameras, like I said, one kind of on each side, and then they can swivel and with the zoom, be able to capture anything that we would want to capture. Excuse me. The other thing we wanted to do was we had gotten a lot of comments that with all of the controls right now for all of our current speakers and lights and everything are up in the choir loft, and wanting to move that down to the main chapel floor here, so that the person controlling the sound can actually hear what the people down here are hearing, instead of the delays and the differences, and they'd get a lot of reflected sound and everything else. So that number 3 is actually showing kind of where in the church we would put some sort of secure desk where all the mixers, webcasting, all that electronic equipment would sit, so that the person mixing the sound is actually down here where you all are sitting, so that they can hear what you're hearing. The third thing was the requirement for the hearing impaired, hearing supplemental aid. And what we're proposing is a system that mixes the future with the past. So if you have existing hearing aids, if you have the newer hearing aids, it'll actually automatically pick up your hearing aids when you come in and broadcast to them. Or there'll be an app on your phone that is, yeah, there you go. App on your phone that it'll treat your hearing aids like headphones, and you'll just pick it up when you come in. Once it's set up, the app connects and we broadcast to the app, and your hearing aids will pick it up. We also will have separate devices for those without hearing aids that just have a hard time hearing or don't have the right hearing aid. So again, that's all to bring it up to code, which was lacking. So that's the audio-visual part of it. The other thing we wanted to do is really bring up the quality of lighting and really accent some of the features in the sanctuary that really make it a super dramatic space. We also wanted to keep some of the tradition and history of the church itself, keep the historical integrity of it. So we're proposing a couple things, and this gets a little more complicated, so Jim's going to try and cast around here a little bit, but one of the things we're talking about doing is upgrading the existing pendants, which are the lights hanging down from the ceiling. We're also going to add a third row of lights down the middle of pendant lights to really light up the middle. We actually had a professional lighting theater designer come in and the acoustician come in as well to do some studies and kind of base these changes on facts, not on just me assuming or the committee assuming we knew what we were doing. So what they found was the lighting is very uneven at the pew level. So by putting the row down the middle, that's going to really bring everything up. And the darkest part is kind of that middle half of the church is actually super dark compared to the sides. So that'll really help. Those improvements will really help just the general lighting. We're also going to upgrade the cove lighting, which is I don't know if Jim can show you this, but it's you see the white light that's kind of under the wood cove, and that's going to be a lot brighter to be able to redirect light out. And then one of the third things we're talking about doing is actually one of the reasons it seems so dark is these brick walls just soak up a lot of the light, and there's not a lot of light there. So we're going to do two things. We're going to upgrade the lighting underneath the side aisles. And then one of the things we wanted to do to try and bring the two churches together is take the windows, the stained glass windows from Prince of Peace, and actually build a light box kind of around them. So we talked about poking windows in the walls. We talked about all sorts of things. But what this would do is it would take those windows and like you can see in the pictures down below here, actually shine a light so it kind of looks like light coming through there and really light up those windows, and we would put those along that wall as well, kind of as a nod to the two churches combining. And then the third category was really just a list of miscellaneous things. to kind of help. One of the things that the acoustician suggested was to put cushions for the benches. That helps soften the sound. You can hear the echo now and how tinny things sound. Just adding those cushions will add a lot more richness to the ability to talk. One of the things we talked about with the sound designer was, the ability to mix spoken word with sung word and choirs and bands, and how do you mix spoken word with music. And that was the number one suggestion on her part, was to add pew cushions, which also will help at least me sit there for one of Pastor Heidi's sermons. I'm used to a crowd of people to laugh at that. Sorry about that. All right. One of the other things that just falls kind of in that miscellaneous and got super interesting when we were talking COVID is large fans, which will do a couple things: help circulate the air, help regulate the temperature, reduce heating costs dramatically. Now, when I say large fans, these fans have 12-foot blades. They're not the fans we have now, which are about 4 foot. These are about 3 times that big. 24. They move very slowly and move. Yeah, Jim, I don't know if you can show the ceiling, but they move very slowly, slower than these are moving. And the whole idea is just to kind of keep that air mixed, both in summer and winter. The added benefit is they actually have, in reaction to COVID, they actually have UVC lights built in. UVC is it's the only thing proven to take care of viruses. It breaks down the outer shells of the viruses and kills them. So as it's circulating the air, and the fans are designed to bring the air up over those lights, it actually will disinfect and kill viruses in the air as well. So kind of a dual purpose there. Their studies show that the fans doing that reduce viruses in the air by about 95%. Of course, they need to be running all the time, and the air circulating, and we're bringing fresh air in as well. But so between the benefits of better air circulation, better mix, and then the disinfectant killing off the viruses, it should make a big difference. The advantage of the low velocity, high volume fans is it won't impact the sound to the what is that back there? The organ at all. Because again, it just moves large volumes but very slowly, so it won't affect the air getting into the organ pipes at all. The last thing we decided that got to be a real interest, a real passion of the committee was the idea of mounting the Prince of Peace cross onto the Wooddale cross up at the altar. So the Prince of Peace cross actually fits up there. Actually fits right on top of the Wooddale cross, and mounts relatively easily. We actually had a structural engineer look at that to make sure everything is structurally sound to be able to do that. So I think that's a really great measure. The last thing, and it's not called out here, but that we will look at doing is one of the thoughts was to be able to open the altar a little bit to allow better view up to the altar, to allow bands or choirs or more flexibility. So we're talking about on the stage right, I guess, pew left, actually taking out that pulpit. Yeah, and opening that up, and it's incredible what the change in views that creates to that corner of the altar over there to allow for choirs or bands or whatever else to be seen. So
Which one?
that is the extent of the changes. So now the good news or bad news. We actually were originally looking at, and what had been talked about at the annual meeting was about 200 grand for these changes. Since then, we've actually gone out and gotten a number of bids, and the numbers here reflect those bids. So the AV with the cameras, the ability to broadcast, the storage, the recording, comes in at about 65. The lighting improvements about 55. The miscellaneous improvements at about 35. And if I did my math right, then for a total of 165 grand. And that's all installed, that's training. One of the things, one thing I should mention, one of the things we wanted to do with the sound and the lights is create the ability to control it all very simply. So part of this is actually it'll be an iPad size like device, could just be an iPad. But the idea being you can walk in and hit Sunday service and it'll control the lights, it'll turn the sound on, it'll do everything, and you just hit that button. Wedding, you can hit the wedding button and it'll change the lights to fit that wedding. So plus you can get down to all the details of changing each individual lighting or sound system as well. So the idea was to make it as simple as possible for anyone to operate it without needing a lot of training. But these do include a line item for training as many people as we want on how to operate all of it. So that's kind of the gist of it, I guess. If I'll open it to questions, or anyone, Pastor Heidi, anything else you want to add? She's shaking her head, so.
Okay, so we just added it up. It's 155, just in case anybody's got their calculators out.
Oh, did I misdo that?
Yes, you did.
We're asking at this point for the congregation to okay 170 because we're not totally sure if there will be any overruns in different areas when it comes to the electrical or those pieces. We're hoping to keep it at the 155. The ask of the congregation was 170.
Sorry about that. I guess I can't do math.
It's
And
no
you have a
math.
question in the front, Sean?
Yeah.
No chance.
There's a small control panel behind the pulpit there, yeah, for the lights.
We can't hear the.
That'll all get moved to the central station and back.
Could somebody repeat the questions? We can't hear I certainly can't hear them sitting here.
Yeah, so there'll be like
Sean.
actually probably a roll top type desk is what we're thinking of, so we can pull it down and lock everything up and keep everything safe, and it's not out where kids can play with it.
Heidi or Sean?
Oh, sorry. So
Can you repeat the question?
Was there's some controls for lighting in the pulpit that we're talking about taking out. And so the question was, where do those end up? And the answer was they go back in the video audio station that we put in the back there. And what's that? That cost is already included. Yep. Yep. Well, yep. Yeah, no, it's a great question, and there's been a lot of talk and discussion about pulling. At first, we were going to pull both the pulpit and the lectern out, and the thought was to go ahead and leave the lectern for the integrity of the altar and the way it was designed, but as well, so if somebody was more comfortable talking from a lectern. Correct. So they'll be able to give the sermon from the lectern on the stage left, and then choir and band would be on stage right. Yeah, it's actually interesting.
Hi, Sean. Sean, can you hear me? Or
hope
Pastor Heidi?
Good. So the question was if the existing pulpit could be taken down and kind of saved and stored. And actually that existing pulpit is just bolted into the brick. So I think with a little care, we can take that, we can do just that. We could take it out and save it and put it back up. One of the things we were very cautious of is we're getting a little bit ahead of the worship committee and not wanting to impact what they might do. So again, these changes were meant to be more, regardless of what happens, regardless of who comes in to preach, it'll be more adaptive. We'll be able to do different things and not lose any of the integrity that we already have in here. No. So some of the, to be honest with you, no. What's that? Well, and that's exactly it. So the question is what's the next phase after this phase? And really that's going to depend on where and how we shape and decide how the service runs, what the impacts are. We actually did not, we actually talked about lots of different scenarios, and we've kind of tabled a lot of those until we knew where more we were going with things. So like I said, most of these changes are things that will help, that just need to happen. That'll just give us that flexibility to go where we want to in the future. Really updating the church from the 1960s to the 20s. So.
Can they hear me if I talk from here, Sean?
I don't know.
So I'm going to go over here, Jim.
Do you want this? Here.
So I'll just talk further down. This is also going to be adapted so it can go up and down for taller people and for shorter people, and be handicap accessible. We're hoping in phase 2 to make this whole space up here handicap accessible so people can get up here. But we're also looking at making this compliant and accessible to everyone. So that's why it's over. Many churches only have one lectern, so we're going to make sure this one can be used.
Heidi or Sean, can you repeat the question?
Up, Judy, what are we making accessible? And right now, other than the lectern, we aren't. One of the things we talked about, and this is kind of in that next phase, because we might be adapting other things, a number of different scenarios we talked about. We're including a ramp coming up along the side. We also talked about behind me here, Jim, I don't know if you can show, there's actually steps in a closet over on the stage left that we could very easily retrofit with a lift. So you could actually wheel in there, wheel on the lift, come up to altar level, and then come out. And that was one of the reasons why we left the lectern and not the pulpit, is so that somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who's having a hard time moving, doesn't have to cross the whole altar to get over to the pulpit on the stage right.
I also have to be on a stool to be able to look over the top.
So does that answer the question, hopefully, Judy? Or at least, yeah, great. Any other questions in chat here? Oh, sorry. Pam, go for it. You can unmute yourself too. Oh. So the question was, how many stained glass windows are coming over from Prince of Peace and how many are going to be used? We're going to use as many as we can. I don't know the exact count. Yeah. So the idea is to bring the whole story over here. And again, it's 12. Yeah, so I don't know what the plans are for the big one that looks over 7 or anything there, but we're talking about the ones that were in the sanctuary, and I think there's 12 or 15. There are only 12. I don't know that we have a plan for that. So the question was the large, what were we going to do with the large window over at Prince of Peace?
So the large window, we're still investigating whether someone can come in and just take it. We don't believe it can be sold. We investigated taking it down ourselves, and it would be $24,000, and that was a year or two ago, to take it down and number it like a puzzle. And that's just taking it down in boxing. So at this point, it's still negotiable. Comment or Rise on 7, Common Bond, the property is not taking it down until next fall. So we have salvage rights and they're still trying to figure out how to get it out of there.
Okay. Pam, go for it. Sorry, you cut out before, so.
That's okay. You talked about
Can't hear you still.
the cameras in the church.
Pam, you're still muted.
Nope, I'm not. Unless.
Nope.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't. I can't hear
Sean, if I can put Pam, you can say your question. I'll put it in the chat for Sean.
Okay. I'd like to know about the cameras.
Sorry,
how they're
Pam,
going to be.
I can't hear you, Pam. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you want me to do a chat? Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
just go ahead, Pam. I'll type it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Caleb is.
How are we mounting the cameras? Are they going to be movable? Are you going to be taking pews out? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. I actually realized my speakers were muted, so we weren't getting feedback. So Pam, you were great. I was the only one that could hear you. Welcome to Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm on here like 6 hours a day. You think I'd figure that out. But so that was one of the things we talked about, and that would be one of those things in the follow-up phase, Pam, was to potentially, and I think we just need to explore it more, was to take out the first 4 or 5 rows of pews, put down carpet, put in movable chairs, you know, potentially again adding that flexibility. We tabled that for now just till we kind of got again, not wanting to make any irrevocable changes without really knowing where that was going. So did that answer the question? Because I just cut the last half of it.
Yeah, that answered the question.
Yeah.
But
So and there were a number of things.
Don't.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and there were a whole list of things we did look at that we're not pursuing, that we tabled, that again are ideas for down the road here. But again, this was really just to focus on, you know, what are the hot items to get to enable us to function, increase flexibility, you know, make everything easier. All the improvements, by the way, we've been talking about will make it so I don't have to hit the mute button and unmute button every time. So that'll help. That'll help. Okay. Any other questions anybody has? Connie? Connie's in the,
And check on chat. See if people are-
yeah. So we're really not. This is kind of the basic system. So when we did so I'm sorry, the question from Connie was, this seems very like the top end system. Is there a simpler system we could use? And so the committee asked, again, the group that was putting together the pricing and the estimates for kind of a best, better, a good, better, and best scenario. Most of these changes were actually falling under the good scenario, not even the better or the best. But it's kind of one of those things, once you upgrade, I mean, it's again, it's the technology's pretty common that we're going to, it just hasn't been in place for 70 years. So it's kind of like now, if you buy a TV, you can't buy a TV that's not, you know, wireless and connected to the internet. Kind of that same thing. A lot of these features are just catching us up to where we are. And again, you know, that's so. Is there a simpler system? Probably. I mean, we could go back to light switches on the wall. But that would involve just as much training, and again, doesn't set us up for the future. One of the thoughts was, if we're going to invest the money, you know, let's do it right without getting extravagant. So that was one of the things that we looked at. This really is the good option, not even the better or best option. The best option would have been over $350,000. So that's why we did not go down that path. And again, this does include installation. It does include training. It does include, you know, permits and licensing, and it's kind of the whole package. So these numbers are pretty inclusive. It is good to have a little buffer, which is why we're asking for a little more. I don't know if anybody keeps track of building material prices, but a piece of plywood, for example, has gone up 3 times in the last 6 months. Just for a piece of plywood that cost you $15 6 months ago is going to cost you $45 right now. So having a little contingency with things is probably needed. But anyways, thanks, Connie. My lovely wife, are you asking a question or just wiggling your fingers? She's just wiggling her fingers.
Assuming the changes are authorized next Sunday, how long would the work take?
So, yeah, so the question was, is assuming we get the decision to move forward, how long would it take? The upgrades themselves, probably not that long. I think we were talking 2-3 weeks. What will take a while is getting on their schedule. Talking with them right now. I got to do the math in my head. March, April, May, June, July, August. So we were shooting for August, September to have everything wrapped up and done. Again, if that's getting the okay now, and that was talking with them as far as schedule maybe 2-3 weeks ago. So again, it's not a lot of work once they get going. It's just getting plugged into their schedule over the summer. Oh, that's not my question.
Ask Phyllis, what kind of vote is needed?
So the question here was what kind of vote was needed to pass this? And Phyllis, are you on?
Yes, I'm here, but honestly, I do not have the Constitution memorized. So I don't know off the top of my head.
So I don't know if everyone was able to hear that, but Phyllis admitted she does not have the Constitution memorized. And so she doesn't know off the top of her head what that is. But we can find out. I mean, But oh, come on, you guys are easy. Give me some hard questions. Oh, Connie.
We have cushions if you want them, and some people use them, but maybe aren't used. And so it's not for our seats that we're doing this, you're doing this because of acoustics, is that what I heard?
Correct.
I'm a little confused about that. We got great acoustics on the stand and sing everybody. So something else.
No, so it is for acoustics, more than our own rears. That's an added benefit. But when it comes to recording and music and different varieties of sound, the spoken word is not intelligible necessarily all the time. Again, depending on how many people are here and what's going on. If the church is full, it's great. If the church isn't full, it gets very tinny like you hear it now. And the acoustics will help with that. The new will all help with that. But part of that solution is putting some absorbent surfaces out there for people to hear. If you go to a theater, if you go to the orchestra, you know, that's all padded seats for a reason, not just for comfort. Because you don't want that reflective sound coming off the hard surfaces. So it's a lot different up here than it is out there necessarily too. So no, the cushions are more of an acoustic solution. We talked about carpet instead of cushions, and then again, that goes back to kind of a permanent solution, and now you're cleaning and all sorts of things. But well, the thing is, you've got all this volume of sound, so you're getting a lot of reflected sound that you don't necessarily want, and you've got this big volume. So again, I've got to go with the acoustician who, you know, knows what she's doing, and I don't necessarily, but that was her recommendation. So, and the theater and lighting company, who the acoustician was part of, they've done all the concert halls in town and New York, and very well respected. Schuler Shook is the name of the company. So I've put a lot of trust in their analysis. Nope, we have not. So a lot of it, so the question from Connie was, have we spent a lot of money? We've spent probably 1/3 of what it would have cost to do that, because of a lot of donations and charitable work and pro bono things. So we actually really haven't spent that much money on consultants. A lot less than we should have, than the effort we got out of it.
So we got consultants because what happens is if you don't do the package together, then they not cancel each other out, but they're not working together for one product. And the only way to do that was to bring in professionals that were sound and lighting and acoustics, and they covered everything and worked together. So everything will be in tandem. If at some point we decide to go with a screen years from now, that will be wired into the board. They are running what they need to run for that in case we want to at some point. So they're looking at all of the options, but we chose to make sure that it wasn't a committee who was haphazardly saying, well, I think. We brought in professionals.
Right. I mean, one of the things we did not want is, you know, okay, so let's put the fans in and then have to run lights, and the fans are getting in the way of the lights, and then, you know.
I'm not asking you to justify yourself. Probably a great idea. This is very
Oh,
$12,000.
Oh, I didn't know you were asking for the number.
Yeah. Nope, that's on top. That's on top.
That's on top.
So that was the cost of the consultants, if people at home weren't following. Sorry. It's kind of hard to repeat questions back and forth. Thanks for working with me. Okay,
Earl has a question.
Yeah,
Carol, shoot.
hi. I have a question about the fans.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to picture like where they will be. Are they gonna be hung in the ceiling where the current fans are?
Almost.
Oh, but they're
There's
gonna be
only,
in the ceiling?
yeah, so there's only 2 fans.
Okay,
And right now we have 1, 2, 3 fans.
okay,
But they'll be mounted where the existing fans are at about, from the ceiling, from the apex of the arch. And again, positioned so that they don't get in the way of the lights or
Sure.
anything else. But
okay.
yeah, that's exactly it is. So the question for those here was, where were the fans going to be? So
Thank you.
I have a question.
sure.
As we're thinking about making the sanctuary more accessible, is there any plans down the road to make it accessible to get into the church if you're in a wheelchair, get into the bathrooms without bringing someone along to open the doors for you?
Good question.
Yeah, no, great question. And I think there should be, again, that's like you said, that's kind of part of a whole nother thought is upgrading any one of those elements along the path of travel, path of egress. It doesn't work, right? I mean, it doesn't do great if we put in a handicap accessible altar up here if we can't get to it, right? So that's, I think it's being more discussed on the property side of the fence and not on this side of the fence to do so. And that's one of the reasons we table that is until we get that whole path figured out and how we're going to do that, how we're going to bring people in, what we want that experience to be. That was really beyond the purview of what we were asked to look at here right now. So, and that was one of the reasons we tabled the ramp and the lift was so that we could get that whole egress thing figured out. So. Okay. Any other questions out there? Last call. Okay. Pastor Heidi, you want to close this out? And if you do have questions that come up after the fact, feel free to reach out and send us an email or post something somewhere and we'll do our best to get back to you. I will admit I'm not the best at doing that sometimes, but I will try.
Okay, I'm going to be Sean now. Mark has my computer in the back of the sanctuary. This is us trying to make this space usable for future generations. And we still have a lot of visioning to do as a congregation, just in general. And then Roy, for you, I know we are talking about handicap accessibility that is better than we have right now. And I did not know that, are there openers for the doors? For bathroom doors?
Not now.
No.
Okay, all right. I thought, well, maybe we're missing something. But yes, we are looking at padded handicap accessibility entrance and maybe even doing an entrance that's closer to the parking lot. But all of that is a negotiation and has to go with what our vision plan is in the future. But it needs to be done. You're right. This is in God's hands. It's in your hands. Blessings. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord look upon you with favor as you discern where you think God is leading us as a congregation and how we can best be ready for growing this community of faith. And I don't know why that's doing that, but I apologize.
Okay.
Go in peace. And Sean is available. Okay. Does anybody have theirs?
I figured it out. You're good.
You figured it out? Thank you. If anybody has questions, don't hesitate to, can they call you in the evenings?
Sure.
Call Sean in the evenings, call myself anytime during the day, call Debbie Olson, our council chair. I believe both Dan and Caleb are pretty on top of this and can answer questions. If you know of anybody that has questions, please let us know. One of our members came last week who didn't have Zoom, and I literally walked him through all of the improvements in the sanctuary. And he left feeling very satisfied in understanding it. So there are a lot of people that are looking at it and going, well, what is this and why should we do this? Send them to us. We will meet with anybody. We will give them a tour. We will show them exactly what's going to go on. So.